And with that, we're going to transition to our next amazing speaker. You're going to get to meet Becky. So, Becky Moller is a #1 international best-selling author of Undone, Unafraid. She is a passionate truth seeker, author, teacher, wife, and mother of 5 children. She is from Spanish Fork, Utah. Her journey began in 2014 through personal immersion in the 12-step world of addiction and trauma recovery. Later, serving as the executive director of a global recovery foundation, she is also a certified yoga instructor and university level teacher, founder of the Undone Academy, and is absolutely passionate about helping you heal, surrender, and come home to your true self. Please lean in, warmly welcome the powerful, heart centered, and dynamic Becky Moller. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And I want to thank all of my fellow presenters. I feel so humbled that some of you are aware of my book and my work. It never kind of gets old to realize that when you put that book forward, that you have these people who kind of know this really special piece of you and that you kind of share that. So it feels very special to know that some of you are on that radar and or that I'm on your radar. And it's so cool to hear all of you share your work because I feel like every single one of you has said um, things and pointed to the same things that my work is about, my book is about. I really feel that when we kind of embark on this kind of deeper human journey of awakening and evolving through what life gives us, we kind of all come to the same realizations. And there's a million ways to talk about those, but really we're pointing to the same things. And I feel that so much with all of you. Um, so namaste. I'm a certified mindfulness and meditation teacher. That's really my work. Namaste means the light in me sees the light in you, and I feel the oneness that's here. So I feel that in this meeting already. So to kind of get into my presentation, um, like Rebecca mentioned, my book is Undone Unafraid. It's right here. I still also it never gets old to hold it in my hand and be like, it's real. It's so cool. Um, and my work is really my passion is to help people move through the kind of darkest parts of their lives in a way that expands them and becomes a vehicle for actually um, awakening to a more rich dimension of living. So my water bottles here, this my logo, BeckyMoller.com is from shattered to awakened self. So that's kind of what I do. And my book, in some ways, is the impetus of my work because it shares a really personal journey of um, how I came to know and be able to teach in this space. And it's also the fruition of my work because I would say to those of you, the listeners that are thinking about writing your story, you will know that you need to write your story when you can't not write it. And I think that will make sense to you if you know what I'm talking about. They're definitely almost from the moment that my life kind of shattered, uh, what I would call the beginning of my journey. I knew that I had to write it. It came out through writing. It started with just poetry at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. It wanted to be expressed. And I knew that giving voice to what I was experiencing was going to be part of my healing. And I loved how Catherine talked about having a distinct voice and becoming aware that she had a distinct voice, and that every one of us actually does have a distinct voice. But I think my distinct voice probably is, and as I've worked with Rebecca, I know you mentioned this, there's something in me that like really wants to emote, um, to help people feel, and that finds the sacredness in what we feel. Maybe just like Lori sees the sacredness in color, there's something that connects us to something greater than ourselves through that color. And for me, um, these emotions and the ability to feel our emotions deeply is kind of, I think, my distinct voice or my gift. So my book is a really personal journey through betrayal in my marriage and kind of all of the very internal things in my own heart, mind, and spirit that I had to move through to be able to heal from that. And so um, today I am going to attempt to share my screen quickly. If it doesn't work, then we'll plan B it. Um, because I'd like to share you um, some of these key ideas. All right. Can you see my screen? Nod your head if you can. Sweet. And you can still see me. Love it. Okay. So homeostasis or living the dream, when life is going fine, one of the reasons life is going fine, when we feel it's going fine, is because all of our core identities are intact, okay? And when our core identities are intact, kind of the fundamental way we see ourselves, um, and Desley spoke to this really beautifully too, like this core sense of self, it's intact, and mind, body, spirit kind of all just work. So what happens in life sometimes, I think for almost everyone, we're going to hit a moment like this, and I call it the crisis. Um, and the crisis happens really when something happens in our life that in some way either pokes at or just shatters those core identities. And when something like that happens in our lives, it's the impetus of a potential awakening. That's how I like to see it. Or what Richard Rohr, who's a beautiful Christian mystic, um, Catholic priest, he talks about it as the second half of life. Um, that we spend the first half of life building these core identities and the sense of self. And then the second half of life is about dismantling that and understanding who we are beyond those identities we've created for ourselves. So, although it feels like an end, it's really a beginning. And this is from my book. Um, I said those first stumbling, shaky truths that spring Sunday night, which is when I'm talking about the disclosure of betrayal from my husband, were such an upheaval for my husband and me, a new beginning of tenuous truths rather than lies, denial, and unconscious striving. But oh, did it feel like an end. At that moment, I ended. Who I was, what I believed about myself, the way I saw the world, it all ended. For a while, this ending was all I could see. But over time and with lots of care and tending, it became something new. So one of the first things that we have to do when we kind of hit a moment like this, like a crisis or a shattering moment, is realize one, there's a grieving process, and that takes as long as it takes. But at some point, we kind of have to gather ourselves and say, okay, this happened to me. Now what? Now, what am I going to do with it? And what I've developed is this whole framework that moves us from unconscious, what I call normal unconscious insanity, to a conscious awakening. And when we're in kind of normal unconscious insanity, that's how most of us are going through life when we don't have that deeper awareness, is we're like reacting, okay? And the work I do is to help people find this framework of awakening. So I want you to just notice one of the biggest things that makes the difference is what's at the center of how we're moving through something. In this unconscious cycle, it's just kind of empty and shattered in the middle, like that shattered sense of self. And if you've ever felt that sense of like free fall or being untethered, ungrounded, I don't know where my center is anymore. It's gone. Versus the really pivot of all of this healing that's possible, that's potential, is learning how to find something higher and really center ourselves on something higher. And that's what, Desley, you are speaking to when you're talking about like knowing yourself, God, this presence. Rebecca, you talk about presence all the time, the present moment in my body. That's what I do, is work with people to how do I start to live in this way where I can really feel something tangibly higher at my center and move through my day-to-day life, staying connected to that. And we're only going to get to touch in. In fact, Rebecca, will you like wave at me when I have like a minute left? Because I'll cut and run. Okay, thank you. Um, and I'll start here at the beginning. The top of this circle or this framework is suffering, and separation creates suffering. This is like a universal, this is a secular Buddhist, from Buddhist psychology principle. Separation creates suffering, integration creates healing. So when we experience suffering or something difficult happens and we separate from it, we want to push it away, we want to deny it, run away from it, escape from it. And this is driven by fear-driven judgment. You can see on that thing. It creates a sense of suffering. So from my book, this is how I'm moving through this betrayal for the first probably 18 months, really. Every day, it's the same struggle. The morning light filters through my curtains and eyelids, and I drift toward consciousness. There's a transient moment where I exist blissfully beyond my story with lightness and ease. Then wham, my reality wafts me over the head, and off I go, kicking and screaming in involuntary tantrums again. The stories of all that is happening and has happened and might happen cascade over my mind body like a mudslide. My heart beats faster, pounding louder in my chest, clamoring for escape. No, 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 my brain screams. This is not my life. This is not my reality. This cannot be happening to me. So, do you see how much resistance there is there in me, in my body, in my mind, in my spirit? It's like an absolute refusal to integrate what's happening in my life, the reality of what is, into my, I can't accept it, right? Um, so healing starts at the simplest. Well, let me go back one second here. This fear-driven judgment has everything to do with how we separate from ourselves. Because the moment we start to judge our experience like this, what are the things we say to ourselves? This shouldn't be happening. Someone, I think it might have been Catherine, said something like the hard things in our lives like don't mean that something's going wrong. This is what we're doing here. And if we think anything else, we're mistaken. Like this is what we're doing here. We're here to grow, evolve, learn, progress. And so when life gets hard, it's like, can I open myself? We open ourselves. So to orient ourselves around suffering or around difficulties as they come, unexpected detours, we open ourselves to growth as we acknowledge our pain and reach out for help. And a few people talked about reaching out, this reaching out thing. We need to ask for help. One example from my book is just this idea of learning, or I just share how I learned how to come to a place of acceptance. Over the years, I've learned that rock bottom, in whatever form it takes, places us squarely in front of two doors. One is a siren call back to the way it was, a desperate resistance to the pain of all that's been lost. The other is the door to the unknown, a surrender to what is exactly as it is, a door that potentially opens to a new way of being. Walking through that door may be the bravest thing any of us will ever do, in my opinion. As J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter books, aptly stated, rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. 10 years down the road, I can echo her sentiment. Um, One of the things, and I'm in my room, I could flip my camera, but I won't. I have on my wall next to my bed the third step prayer from AA. And a 12 step was such a huge part of me finding the tools to start to move into this space. And I would recite this every morning. The third step prayer is, God, I offer myself to thee to build with and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Remove my difficulties, that my victory over them would bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And do you feel like when my whole body and spirit are like kicking and screaming? Like, here I am, a mother of four little kids. I became pregnant with my fifth. Spoiler alert, very shortly after my husband's disclosure. Um, Thinking, this is my whole life. This is what I've built my entire identity on. And I'm a fail. It's over. What's the point? When everything in me wants to say, this shouldn't be happening. I didn't sign up for this. To start to be able to shift and say, God, I offer myself to thee. Like, here I am. Do build with me as you will. And I'm willing. I feel like one day at a time, and this is just like one tiny step, right? In this whole framework of healing. But one day at a time, where I am today is still a one day at a time practice of that third step prayer and that third step sentiment. Surrendering my will for my life, my agenda, my idea of the way things should look, and saying, the way it is, there's a wisdom. I have to trust that there's something higher holding this up. Um, Rebecca, I can't see you super clearly because of the way my screen is. Are we okay on time?
We are just about to 1 minute, so your asking is perfect.
Okay, perfect. Um, I'll just kind of high level overview. So the way I work with my clients and the journey that you will find in my book um, starts really with somatic awareness, that somatic connection. When we spin into that unconsciousness, we almost immediately disconnect from the body. So through the tools that I offer, we teach people how to arrive in the body, presence, breath, grounding. Um, After we disconnect from the body, when we're unconscious, we start to completely identify with the chatter in our brain and the emotion that's the most present. We think that's who we are. And so with consciousness, we learn that we can start to just compassionately observe what's happening in the mind and emotions. And there's a whole framework. This is what I do with my clients every week. And I run a course that's really evolved from my 12-step beginnings. Um, but I have people that stay with me for years. Like, I have people who've been with me for up to 5 years. Many in my online group right now have been with me up to 3 years. And they're like, I feel like I'm finally starting to really get this. It's a lifetime practice. It's a lifetime journey with these tools that are just this beautiful, compassionate peeling back of learning, how do we see ourselves more clearly? How do we connect with something higher than ourselves? Uh, how do we move through hard things? And really, I feel like my specialty is to break that down into the tiniest pieces of what's happening in my mind, in my body, in my spirit that are either keeping me from being able to do that or opening me to this power, this divine that's already here. Um, and that's my work and that's my journey in a very gritty, raw, messy way. Um, I'll just say that many people who read my book, I was shocked to have people reach out to me when I released it and say, I read the whole thing this today. I'm like, how did you read the whole thing today? That's crazy. And I have other people who say it took me like 2 months because it is hard. I very, lots of people say this was very triggering for me. But if you want to go deeper and you know that there's more to go, there's deeper to dig, um, this can be a tool in your toolkit to help you because you have to feel it to heal it. You have to. And there's a way to do it with compassion and with support and with the tools to allow it to make you more awake, alive, more useful to yourself, God, and others. So that's my thoughts, and I'm so grateful for the space to share with you. And yeah, Rebecca.
Thank you. I know, thank you for sharing and your authenticity in the book and the poetry and the depth to which you were willing to take us on that very intimate journey is such a gift.
Thank
Few
you.
people let us walk that closely beside you. You know, a lot of times we'll see the shiny places, the after, but not the before and during. And we learn so much in that. And your willingness to share it is a real gift to all of us. So thank you for your book, the work, the heart, and entrusting us with your journey, with your story.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Absolutely. And I do have a couple of questions here. Um, so this one is you take us on, so they've read your book, you take us into some incredibly painful, intimate moments. What gave you the courage to share your story this openly?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would for sure have to say my 12-step roots. Um, if you've ever been in a 12-step setting, it is like raw and real and it was unlike any place I'd ever been before. There was no posturing or facade. It was like, and I felt God's presence in that space more powerfully than anywhere else. And I consider myself a very spiritual and religious person. And it was like this was a whole new level of
Mm,
feeling that like vividness of like God is right here in it. And
mm,
feeling the power and witnessing the power in that to change lives, to change behavior, to change the desires of our hearts. Um, that that I fell in love with it. So I, I definitely was fed by mentors and people that showed me a way of being that I would never have known without being able to learn from them.
beautiful. Thank you. And there's a few more questions. I'm choosing one more. Um, were there moments, because you mentioned how writing helped you processing, write poetry and get things out of you. Were there moments when writing felt too hard? Like that was even feeling too hard. How did you how did you get through that? How did you keep going?
Yeah. You know, I think there's internal processors and external processors kind of. I don't know that writing ever it always felt like medicine for me. And at first I filled like 500 pages of journals the first year and it was just journal. It was just, but it just poured out of me. So it was always kind of my medicine. But I know that for some people, trying to put things into words can be really difficult. For those people, sometimes moving in your body
Mm,
can be really a better tool. Um, Yoga, anything that's going to connect you to a way, because we can use our body to express emotion and release it, uh, even if we don't know the words, even if we don't know the words.
mm,
So I would just say if you're someone who like is like the writing feels hard to me, maybe try that because there is something in trauma that needs to be expressed. And just because you're not a words person doesn't mean you can't express. You can express in so many ways, color, like Lori's talking about, body, art. Yeah,
beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that because I am a journal person as well. That's how I get it out of me. But there are times where movement or dance or something can help move things that I don't have words for yet. So I love that. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing. And I wanted to make sure everyone had your contact information. For those of you we didn't get to your questions, you can reach out to Becky. She is exactly as you are experiencing her here, very open, happy to share. So feel free to reach out to her. Becky, what is the best way for people to connect and go deeper?
absolutely. My website is beckymoller.com and I run retreats. I just finished my women's retreat, which was absolutely magical experience. I do a couples retreat. I do a weekly program where I'm there as a mentor weekly, and we move through. This is my book, my course manual. So this was before this. So we move through a lesson every week. There's journaling, there's specific like mindfulness and somatic tools that we focus on 1 week at a time. And this is basically my um, roadmap of how I moved from my rock bottom to where I am today, broken down into the smallest bite-sized pieces. And I work with people. We meet once a week and we explore this content. So all of those resources are at beckymoller.com. And I would love to hear. I'm always also, like you said, Rebecca, also very open to even if someone was just struggling and was like, could I reach out? I'm very open to that kind of thing as well. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, Becky, for joining us today, for your beautiful presentation, your heart and spirit in this to help so many people really move through things and be fully who they are. I appreciate that and the work you do.